Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world away from the numbers.
Well, hello again, and welcome to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, broadcasting from the unceded Musqueam Territory at the University of beautiful British Columbia. If you're listening to this show in the podcast, this will be episode 239. I'm Michael McCall,
I'm Steve Pander.
and it's just the two of us on the show tonight. We might be joined by Zach during the show, not sure if we're going to get that happening or not. But that's something to stay tuned for. Let's just see if Zach calls in or not. But it's been a hell of a busy week.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be as busy
No.
as it was when the week started. For sure.
I was thinking we'll have a bit of a shorter show tonight, maybe an hour to an hour and a half,
Yeah.
not do our usual 2 hours. But jam-packed. We've got lots of Whitecap stuff to talk about, lots of MLS stuff to talk about.
Canadian
and,
soccer.
Yeah, Canadian soccer. What an
Turn
interesting
Yeah.
week. Let's put it in a nicest kind of way, at least for now. But we'll kick things off as usual with some Whitecaps news. And most of the Whitecaps news this week seemed to be made by Carl Robinson, really, because he spoke to media for the first time on Wednesday.
For the first time this year.
First time this year, yeah.
Yeah.
Not first time ever. He has done it before.
Yeah.
But everything was streamed live on Facebook. It's up on YouTube. I'm sure lots of you have seen it. So we're not going to include any of the Robo chat in this show because you can find it in so many places online. But we do want to talk about some of the main talking points that kind of came from it. And one of the major ones appears to be that he is toying with a new formation. And it's something we talked about last week in the show.
Yeah.
And I said, pre-season's the ideal time for him to kind of experiment with that. And Zach's like, I really hope he's not going to use pre-season to experiment. But by the signs of it, he's going to use pre-season to experiment.
Once in a while, there's nothing wrong with it. When are you going to experiment
I don't
otherwise?
see anything wrong
Yeah.
with it. That's what pre-season is for.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would be expecting, like, okay, I'm going to go with this. Never tried it before. Let's just do it. And
Well,
that's it.
he mentioned the RSL game in his comments, I think,
Yes.
at one point when he talked about not doing it in the middle of the season. You need the preseason to experiment with this, any kind of new formation, even to talk about it. Like you discuss it, show film, show video and stuff like that, because you want to have it in the preseason game, have it on video, and then you could show it in film sessions afterwards and discuss where everybody was supposed to be, if there was an error, where they were supposed to be instead of where they were.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to try things out in pre-season, and by the sounds of it, it looks like 3 at a back is very, very possible. There's so many different formations, so it's like you've got 3-5-2, you've got 3-1-4-2. I mean, we went through all these last week. 3-4-3. I'm hoping whatever it is, it means we're going to have a 2-striker system because we've got Kamara and Blondell, and to me that's very exciting. And 3 at the back, as long as we've got the right personnel to do it, it looks like that is the trendy thing to do. A lot of English clubs are using it, European clubs, Colorado Rapids. It looks pretty certain that they're going to do that under Hudson. It's a formation he's like with New Zealand. So I'm excited to see how it works in pre-season, and it'll give them a chance, if it doesn't work well, to look at something else.
And that's definitely for sure. And I think that the main focus, you're talking about Blondell and Kamara too. It could be Kamara and Teixeira Teixeira could be playing up front
True,
too.
with having Blondell on the wing.
It could be Reyna up there too. So there's with the 3-5-2, it's so many different possibilities. I think the main focus is, especially in training, you want to know how the central defenders are working with the attacking fullbacks. Well, and I think it's the fullbacks that really have to work on what they got to do, because they got to know when to go forward and when to hang back. And I think that's going to be the main focus in training.
Yeah, and it's fitting the personnel into it as well, because you've got so many talented guys in the Whitecaps lineup potentially, and it's trying to fit them in. The three at the back, let's just look at that quickly just now. I mean, are you assuming that it's going to be the three centre-backs of Henry, Parker and Waston? Or do you do Parker, Waston and stick De Jong back there, which he tried in the Montreal game?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. I think it is the initial one you talk about. They'll try that at first. Of course, they could bring in more players too, because if you're going to go 3-5-2, you need a couple more mobile, center halves in order to make that work.
And I put a poll out on Twitter just a couple of hours ago, so I probably should have done this way earlier. I just wasn't thinking, so I only did it a couple of hours ago. So we've had 80 votes so far in it, just asking what the preferred formation would be. And I gave three options. I gave 3-5-2, 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1, or other to let us know. 50% like the 3-5-2, 25% like the 4-4-2, 19% went for 4-2-3-1, and only 6% wanted something a bit different from that. And had a few interesting comments from it as well. And I'll just kind of go over a few of them in a second. But on the phone just now, we should have Zach calling in. So let's just give him a big AFTN welcome just now. Evening, Zachary.
How you doing?
Good. Nice of you to join us.
It's nice to be here. I had to call in because I think you were misrepresenting my views from last week.
Oh, possibly. We were just talking about formations just now. But before I kind of read some tweets about that, what right now, without seeing how things work and how stuff are played, how are you finding with the team that we've got? What formation would you like to see? Not what you think is going to go, but what would you like to see?
Yeah, it would be nice to see something where there's more two strikers up front would be something that I think would be nice to see. Some kind of partnership up front. What I was saying last week about the formations in the preseason was I hope that I just wouldn't use the term experimenting. I hope that there's a plan going into preseason where they're saying, we know the players we have because we've had a bunch of them in the past and we've scouted them extensively, the ones we brought in, and this is how we think they best work. And we're going to have at least two planned formations, tactical approaches that we're planning on using throughout the year, so that you might use it in preseason and it's terrible, and then you might say, okay, maybe we need to scrap that or whatever. I just wouldn't use the term experimenting.
Okay, sorry if I misrepresented you.
No,
I
okay.
picked you up a little bit wrong there then.
No worries.
A couple of tweets that we've had. Murray Lynn at Murray D. Lynn says 3-1-3-3 would be an interesting one. Or, given the recent signing pattern, 6-3-1. I think 3-6-1 is more likely, because we seem to be like jam-packing our midfield with a lot of DMs. Greg Petrie at Our Dumb World says he's fine with whatever formation they want to play, as long as they have the suitable players for that formation. No more insisting on 4-2-3-1 with a striker incapable of being a lone striker, for instance. I do think Kamara kind of negates that, because I think he can play lone striker if we need to. Ken Funk, Kunky Fen, he does say 3-6-1 or 3-4-2-1, which I think could be quite likely. 3-4-2-1 gives Rob with that little bit of defensive stability, and although it's not a two-striker system, you've got those two attackers, which could be Reyna and Blondell with Kamara at the top of that, because he just feels that Robbo cannot play two forwards.
A year or two ago, Schalke was messing around with something like a 3-1-3-3 or something, and it wasn't just them. There was a couple teams in the Bundesliga that were doing it. It was like a 3-2-3-1. My math might be wrong. No, yeah, my math's wrong on that. But anyways, it was three at the back and then another three in midfield with kind of one either side. And a three up top, and it was really interesting. They didn't stay with it long term, but it was interesting it was interesting because it was new, and I'd never seen anyone use it before. I don't think it'll be that experimental. I think it'll be a 3-5-2 or a 5-3-2 will be kind of what they look at.
So we kicked off. I don't know if you heard this at the show, but Robbo made most of the talking points in Whitecaps land this week with his press scrum. And one of the things when he was talking in the scrum was he basically confirmed the signing of Efrain Juarez, who there was a little bit in the Mexican press over the weekend that although it looks like it's a done deal, that it may be just a late snag. It didn't really explain what it was, but it looks like it's a done deal. And although he'd played right back whilst he was in Monterrey, midfield is his favourite position. It was a position he played when he was with Celtic, although he only had a very brief stint there. I don't even remember him being at Celtic before he got loaned out, which I think was to Real Zaragoza. But midfield is the position he wants to play. DM, maybe CM, and that was one of the selling points of him coming to Vancouver. And that makes me feel a bit better than him coming in at right back, because it was hard to see him and Nowinski both getting in the same team if he wanted to play right back. But I feel more comfortable that he's maybe going to be a DM or a CM, Steve, and I think it's a very exciting signing for us.
Yeah, I think, well, if you take him, like we were talking beforehand, if he's a right back, he played right back and he was an attacking guy. If he's playing midfield, I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, he's a DM. He's another DM. He's just going to sit back there." But to me, he sounds like a box-to-box type of guy. That a converter, a guy who played right back last year, comes to the midfield. He's going to be running up and down the field like he was down the wing. I'm assuming. So he'll bring a little bit more, I think, playmaking ability in there.
Yeah. And
I think he could be the ideal guy to connect. I haven't seen him very much. I've only seen highlights. But he seems like a guy that can connect the back to the front.
Is that a signing that excites you, Zach?
I don't know. I've heard some people who were not super impressed with this time.
Well, that is the Whitecaps fan base in a nutshell. No matter what they do, there's going to be folk that's not super impressed.
No, it wasn't just the fan base. It was actually other people.
Or like pundits?
Yeah. I heard at least one who was very disappointed in the reports. But I too have not seen enough of him to be like, oh, for sure he's going to be like a holding midfielder like we've had in the past, or he's going to be box to box or whatever. I think if he ends up being an improvement on what we have, then that's great. That's a positive thing. Also, if he can cover it right back, and it means Danielle Henry or Tim Parker are not coming right back, also a very positive thing.
Yes.
So time will tell, and we'll have to see. Right now we're looking at like the jigsaw's 80% done or 75% done or whatever. So it's not quite complete yet. End of February, beginning of March, I think we'll have a bit of a better idea of who's going to be where and even what kind of formation and tactical approach they're going to fit into.
Well, he has said as well that he is still looking to add. He's looking for a third goalkeeper. He's looking for another right back, possibly a number 10 as well. So I think there will be some additions. For that to happen, he did say there's going to be some subtractions as well. And there's some obvious candidates that you think could get moved on. Brick Shea, I mean, he strikes you as the obvious one, but Tony Chaney even could be a guy that they look to move.
Because they're big money guys, and if you're going to bring in big money people, you got to take it out because of the salary cap.
Why do you have to do that? There's, what is it? Is it $2.8 million in what are they calling it now? The new TAM money?
YAM.
Yeah, but you don't really know how much they've spent on that. That's the big problem with this. You just don't know what's left. It's almost impossible to work it out. And I mean, Robbo did said there had to be some movement before he could bring more in.
There's also international issues. You have to move, might have to move international spots, and even if you have the TAM or YAM or whatever you have, you still have to fit it under the original cap. And so it's too complicated to figure out. If he's saying he's got to move people out, then he's got to move people out.
Yeah,
and there's the internal budget too.
Yes.
Everybody talks about that, so that might play a factor in there as well.
Well, they haven't confirmed Bola yet, but it's basically been reported that he's gone, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, Bola's basically confirmed that he's gone.
He's in another kit.
Yeah, he's well. That means not a lot as well. We'll come to in a later part. But yeah, I mean, he's tweeted out that he's joined Saprissa again, the club where he started it all. He came through the youth academy there. This is his third stint there. He said he's done it for his family, moving back there. I think I'm sad to see him go. We had an article during the week on AFTN about it from Gareth Wolfe, and I'm sad to see him go. But at the same time, it makes total sense because he's a luxury I don't think the Caps can afford in the kind of anti-possession game that they play.
Yeah, but then some of the speculation or reports is that Davide will be replacing him.
Well, yes,
and he's very
but
much,
only if he comes in on a cheap
same
ticket.
kind of option.
Yeah, but he's going to be on a much cheaper ticket, you have to think. And a guy that doesn't look like he's going to be anywhere in a Whitecaps kit next year is Noize Ijibor. And we talked about it in last week's show. I'll just give a brief update. I'm limited in what I can say. In that I got a little bit of information during the week, but the person that told me doesn't really want all the ins and outs to get out there. But basically, don't believe everything that you're reading on Twitter about the Noize situation. I know, hard to believe. It's now we're bad for this as well. It's easy to cast aspersions against the front office and say, oh, they're being tight or they're trying to underpay him and not do all those things. Not everything is as it seems around Noize. My understanding of the situation is the Caps were prepared to sign him at his option. Noize and his agents tried to play a little bit of hardball and it's backfired on them.
And now they're kind of in
now they're in
damage
limbo.
control.
Yeah, damage control is a good way of putting it. Some people are being played out there in social media land, so I don't believe everything that's out there. But it looks pretty much dead in the water that Noize is not coming back.
Unless he accepts less.
Yeah. I was disappointed at first, but after hearing some ins and outs of it, I think it's good that the Whitecaps have decided to go in a different direction.
It might be best not dealing with this.
There's a few agents right now using certain people on Twitter. There's a few agents just putting things out there for their clients. That's what agents are there for.
Yeah.
A couple things. Maybe one's his manager, one's his agent.
Possibly.
But
yes,
the other thing is, just for the record, I wasn't thinking the front office was looking to underpay him. When we talked about this initially when his option was declined, I actually thought they might be not taking his option because they wanted to give him a better deal than what his option was. So it's interesting to hear how this is all kind of played out.
Yes.
Or is playing out.
And the thing is, people talked about Noize. Like, I agree that he seems like a very good player, but he only played 2 games for them or something like that. Let's not put him on a pedestal where we have to demand answers or something like that. It just didn't work out. It's something that didn't work out sometimes.
And Robbo did say, Robbo is really good. You can read a lot into what he doesn't say, or you can read interpretations into what he does say. And he did say this is a guy that's had a number of clubs in a number of years. We'll just leave it at that. Some more positive news. Canadian Championship schedule was announced, and it's later this year.
It's in the summer.
July and August, after the World Cup, so at least that makes sense. They're not clashing with the World Cup, which I really thought they might do.
They also mentioned in one article that it was, I don't know if this is what CSA was doing, but they said that they were trying to get away from the NHL playoffs as well.
Ah, okay.
And so they were trying to push it back that way. I don't know. It's probably a combination of both World Cup and that.
So, Whitecaps away in Montreal on July 18th, then back in Vancouver a week later. Thankfully, both games back and being a Wednesday. None of this ridiculous Tuesdays that had the Whitecaps playing so quick after an MLS game. And then once we beat Montreal, we'll be taking on Oakville, in the final on August 8th and then hosting it on the 15th. So that'll be fantastic. Pleased with the schedule, Zach, or would you have liked it to have been a bit earlier?
In some ways, it's nice to have it earlier in the year because it gives you something to be really excited about and something you can win right away. Although the year that Vancouver won it was like August or whatever because it was a different
late August.
Yeah, so there's our lucky charm.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm a little bit frustrated because if you go and look at July. It's not a great schedule.
No,
and it does. If you look at how things are, and now Vancouver has the second leg at home. So if you in the semifinal at least. So if you take what's happened if you look at what's happened in previous years, it should mean they'll play a strong lineup at home. But if you look at the schedule, it's what's sandwiched in between the Voyageurs Cup game, a Cascadia Cup game in Seattle. So
a lot of travel.
I hate to sound like a broken record of being disappointed in the schedule, but I don't think this is the ideal either.
But what if they're?
I'm not against it being moved.
Yeah.
In the month or whatever it's in, but this doesn't seem like the best thing possible for Vancouver. But
what if they're on a roll and the game in Seattle gets them up for the game in Montreal, and that gets them up for the next game and everything like that, and they just this could be the time when they were on a roll and then they're able to garner all these wins. Although it's the summertime.
That's a great point, Steve. But I also think you have 7 games in the month of July.
Yeah, and we could be missing Kendall Waston, who's still celebrating his World Cup victory.
Yeah.
The two new teams. I mentioned Oakville, and then there's a Quebec team, AS Blainville. Obviously, they're playing a play-in game to play Ottawa for. That's going to be a play-in game to play Toronto. So Toronto gets to play in
it's good. It's a start.
It's a start, yeah.
It's nowhere near enough. Obviously, it's going to change when the Canadian PL starts in 2019.
All those teams will be in it for sure. That's got to be.
Well, we think.
Yeah. They shouldn't be. They should be. Yeah.
And they're pushing for a second Champions League place for Canada and stuff like that as well. So it's a start. It just feels like you could easily have got the PDL teams involved, especially with the games being in July and June playing and stuff, because those teams have got their players by then and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'd love to see TSS Rovers beating the Whitecaps.
Calgary, why not Calgary be in there?
Yeah.
They're PDL team.
That has to be actually the most disappointing thing about the schedule move. They put it in a time where it's actually pretty good for PDL clubs, and they don't allow them in because they want to, shut out small teams in the smaller American league.
We knew they were never going to be in it, but I mean, it's just disappointing. But we'll see what happens with the Canadian Championship. One of the big announcements in Canadian soccer this week, and we'll be back to talk about some more of that after this. That was Mark Knopfler there, sing Why I Man, which was his own song but also used in the closing credits of Auf Wiedersehen Pet. And we've gone all Geordie on you because there's a new Geordie in charge. And it's not Geordie Rayner.
No.
But a new Geordie in charge of Canadian soccer. Out is Octavio Zambrano. In, John Herdman.
It's a shocker.
To say the least.
Because he's out of a job too.
Yes, I guess. So before we get into all the ins and outs, I recorded some stuff on the Extra podcast with Har. If you haven't heard that, you can subscribe to that. Only $3 a month or $30 for the year. But wanted to get Zach's thoughts on this at all. Now, lots of folk had said they'd heard about Zambrano's coat was on a sugly peg, as we say in Scotland, but basically his job was on the line, things weren't happening behind the scenes, he was failing administratively, etc., etc. To me, this was a massive shock. What went through your head when you heard on Monday, Zach, that John Herdman was the new head coach of the men's national team?
Well, first about the Octavio Zambrano stuff, and so I had heard some of the rumblings a while ago, and to be honest, from where I was hearing from, I thought maybe it was, from people who wish maybe not they had the job or they were in a role, but definitely, connected to people who maybe could be doing the job kind of thing, or that kind of
like a jealousy kind of thing. They wanted the job and undermining him.
That would be a strong term, but just people who are closer to
envious.
Well, yeah, still a strong term, but those who are closer to what's going on now, what's gone on in the past, all that kind of stuff. And so I had heard some stuff, but I kind of took it with a grain of salt and just thought, oh, maybe it's just some frustration and disappointment and whatever. And I totally kind of just forgot about it. And then when this happened, and I started to hear again some of those same things. It kind of made sense. I think one thing which maybe we should, I'd love to maybe spend a moment talking about, Michael,
of course,
as much as you think it's worth talking about, is a tweet that you retweeted from someone I don't know, but I have quite a bit of respect for. And now, of course, I'm forgetting his name. Oh man, what's his name?
Tell us what the tweet is, and it'll probably come back to me because I retweet a lot.
But it was about it's the one Zambrano. I think you're talking about the one that Zambrano said this is the closest one.
No, okay. Not that one.
Okay.
No, this came from the gentleman who used to work for Fox Sports World Canada, and he works for Fox Sports World in the States, and maybe
Bobby McMahon, man.
Bobby McMahon. Yes.
The Bobby McMahon tweet, I think, is something that does need to be maybe just talked about a little bit.
Of course.
He basically said, "Look, all these people who are in the media or close to the media or in the Canadian football world are now all saying, "Oh yeah, I heard stuff.
Yep.
I knew stuff. I knew things weren't well. I knew whatever." And he basically said, "This is not the time to say that. If you're a journalist, a media person, when you find out, that's the time to say it."
I disagree with that. Zach, just give me a second. I disagree with that. Yeah. If the journalist was told off the record, he is not allowed to report that, or else that gets journalists in trouble because they won't have that person telling them information in the future. So, but the journalist definitely should have dug more and found out the information from other people, trying to get people on the record. I do agree with that.
Right, but you both know this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you. So yeah.
But yeah, the problem. I think one of the problems in something like the Canadian football media, just the football world in general in Canada, is because it's so small and so many people know each other, and a lot of them talk to each other, or communicate with each other. They know a lot of stuff, but then they have relationships with the people, right? So that they will say, Steve, whether it's off the record or because we're friends, make sure you don't mention this or whatever. So they do all know this stuff, but they can't report on it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like we get told stuff and we can't report on it.
Right. And so it's a little bit awkward. I don't know. It's a little bit awkward that. For example, Michael, if some of this stuff was in England, I'm sure some journalists would say, I'm going to try and make a name for myself. I'm going to make a break, and I've heard this stuff about the head coach of my national team. I'm going to go out or the national team of the country, I'm going to go out and break the story or make some news or shake some trees or be willing to put my name on the line, blah, 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 right? Whereas here, it's like, no, I'm friends with all these people, or I respect them, whatever. So I don't want to do that, and it creates this, code of silence or whatever. And,
a big part of it.
When things happen like this, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I knew about it. I knew that was going on."
Well, I mean, that happens all the time. It happened in the US as well. When they eventually got rid of Klinsmann, it was like, "Oh yeah, I mean, we knew things weren't right, and he should have gone." And
but
and then after they failed to qualify for the World Cup, they're all like, "Oh yeah, that's when they started speaking out, whereas they needed to speak out before that. But the problem here is that there's so many ex-players and stuff involved in the media that they're too close. They don't want to ruffle the feathers at the CSA. It's very incestuous, the media over here, and no one is prepared to put their neck on the line because they're all worried that they'll get their accreditation pulled. And I mean, basically that's what it comes down to. And then you get Herdman doing a very cosy interview, really, with James Sharman at Sportsnet, and then another pretty cosy interview with TSN, not given a hard time at all.
And the thing is, Sharman should have given him a hard time because they're not rights holders.
Yeah.
He has every right to question what's going on here.
I mean, he asked some difficult questions, did not get proper responses, but did not follow up or challenge it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very disappointing.
I can understand TSN doing it because TSN's in bed with the Canadian soccer at this point, although I think Canadian soccer needs TSN more than TSN needs Canadian soccer. So they could have done the same thing too. But yeah, I 100% agree with those interviews should have been harder.
But, Michael, to me, though, the difference with Klinsmann and Bruce Arena are, I think most of the main reasons that they were released of their duties were things that everyone could see. Oh, you didn't bring Landon Donovan to the World Cup. That made a whole bunch of people angry. Oh, you're playing a bunch of people out of position, or you're not willing to change your tactics or whatever with Klinsmann, or you're not bringing certain people in. It was kind of stuff that everyone would say, oh, yeah, I felt the same. We were all processing it together. This stuff about Octavio Zambrano seems not to be due with the players and the squad selection and results and whatever. It seems to be different. You know, Bruce Arena was similar to Klinsmann. Everyone knew Bruce Arena, how he operated. They thought he could get the job done. He didn't, so he's relieved because he didn't get the job done. This is behind the scenes.
Yeah,
how he's.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Doing. Yeah, with that.
Just one thing I want to clarify as well. Like when I'm talking about ex-players and being too close, we actually have two really good ex-players here that are not afraid to speak their mind. Mark Rogers and Carlo Corazin. They speak their mind.
Yeah, for sure.
And there needs to be more of that. It's that guys out east I'm kind of pointing fingers at.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting as well where the press conference is held. I've heard there's going to be a press conference this week. Now, Herdman lives here. Stephen Reed's here. I've heard it's going to be here, but will we get a harder time here, or would he get a harder time out east? Because there were some folk out east that some of them was a bit of an overreaction, like Anthony Tortera. I spoke about this in the extra podcast. He went a bit over the top, borderline threatening when he was talking about the Canadian Premier League side of it. Which Herdman's
he's a very
not
passionate gentleman.
Yeah, but I mean, Herdman's not even commented on the CPL, and he's like, if you do anything to my CPL, I'm going to be coming for you. Now, that's not responsible reporting. And then you had Tim and Sid who went on their epic rant as well. But the folk that's really close and the folk that really understand the game, there's been an awful lot of... Like, no one's come out and said it's a great appointment, but no one's come out and had a real go at the CSA for it. And...
Are you saying Sid doesn't know football?
Well, I mean like ex-players and folk that's involved in that. But ultimately, no one at all knows how Herdman is going to do as coach of the senior team until we see what he does in some games. That's what it boils down to.
There was one article that was a little bit disappointing on how it covered things, and I don't even for me. It's not even worth mentioning the author's name because I.
But we're talking Toronto Sun.
I'm not going to. It's not even worth.
Okay.
I don't think it's worth us mentioning. But I think as someone who's lost the plot and doesn't. Yeah, it's a little bit offside on some things.
He's probably. American, anyways. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that was a ridiculous article. But just we could go and talk about this forever, and we will revisit it more.
Especially if there's a press conference.
Yeah, if there's a press conference, we'll do that either on the show or do an extra podcast. But
so one thing I will say is I just hope that whether it's continuing to do some of the things that he did in his previous position, or it's doing some new things, I really hope that John Herdman is able to get some results in his new position.
My only concern is that with the women, he had a lot of training camps. He had a lot of tournaments, like the Algrave tournament and other tournaments, and he's not going to have that with the men. And
yeah, but
in the men, he's just basically going to have them 3-4 days before a international game, maybe a couple weeks before a tournament.
He has to deal with club managers releasing players for some bizarre friendlies and stuff out with FIFA dates and. Yeah, I mean,
I wish him luck.
You're right. I totally agree. Things are different, and you don't have these smaller tournaments for sure. But who's to say on the other end of the speculating side of things? Who's to say that now this program won't have meet or play on and have camps on more of the FIFA dates now, with a focus on 2026 and the focus on 2022 and the focus on a new reign, a new head coach, a new technical director, whatever. And so, and in terms of connecting with the head coaches, I think that's what most people on the outside would say is that's one of his strengths. Right? Yeah. He's good with people. He's good at connecting. He can just go down to the local Starbucks and talk to Robbo about what the players he's interested in. You know,
I'm gonna camp outside some of the Starbucks in Surrey if we don't get hold of him, just to see if I can grab him there.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And the thing is you think of his ability to connect with people, And maybe one thing that he can do, which some previous managers have done, is recruit more of those players that are on the fringe of joining the national team, and he can get them into camps.
And that was actually something I wanted to ask you, Zach. I don't want to move away from this yet because there's still so much more I want to talk about this, but I really value your insight because you've followed the national team for so long. First question, we'll just do some rapid fire. Do you think it was a good appointment? Was he the right man to take over?
I think it's hard to answer that now, especially when you. I guess I personally want to know more what the truth is.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know if we'll ever get it. That's the thing.
I don't know if we will. Yeah, I think we will. I think we might, but we're not able to talk about it. But no, some of the people who are saying, "Oh, he used a job opportunity on another continent to, what's the term? Like not blackmail, but like use as leverage."
Leverage is a much better word.
that doesn't seem super positive, even though it's totally understandable. And wanting to, when you're looking at what job you're going to do next, you've been working at one for a long time, and you're looking at it for something different or a new challenge, or just starting fresh or whatever. But so for me, it's hard to say, oh yeah, it was a good thing, or for me to say, oh no, it was a terrible thing. I think for me the biggest concern is how his assistant coach is going to take over for him with a I don't like the word program, but a program that has in some ways maybe punched above its weight and reached higher heights than many would ever thought. And will this new person be able to keep them on that trajectory? Going into 2019's a World Cup year. So what will that look like for them? But I think it. I guess I hope it's going to be a positive thing.
I think he was also the new coach. He's the former Dutch national women's coach as well, right? If I'm not mistaken, former.
I know nothing about him.
Okay,
when we spoke to her, she didn't know much about him.
I know he took his wife's name as part of his name. That's why
I think it's great though that we can play REM's "What's the Frequency, Kenneth" every time we speak to him. So there's positives in it. Because there's not many songs with Kenneth that you can go with. A couple of other just quick things. Well, right. First of all, I think it's a poor appointment. I'm
on your side on this one. Like,
it makes no sense.
Only because that I had no issues with Zambrano.
No,
I don't know.
That was the thing.
I don't know
next thing I was going to ask Zach.
I don't know what he did behind the scenes, like everybody's talking about, but what he did on the pitch, was great this year.
Yeah.
He showed not only did Canada do well at the Gold Cup for once in a long time. They actually played attractive game.
I enjoyed watching them,
exactly,
as opposed to being bored out my head.
So it was fun to watch. So that's why at this point I am going to say no, even though whatever all the success Herdman's had with the women, I'm going to say no. It wasn't a good appointment because I'd rather have the coach that was already there.
Yeah, and okay, last thing, and then we'll move on. But last thing. A lot has been made about the fact that he has never managed a men's team. Now, I did a little bit of digging and background stuff, and he played non-league football in England, level 10, so way down the English pyramid, a team called Wycombe FC, and his teammates there have described him as being quite mouthy and having a bit of a temper. He also taught a Brazilian...
You said he's a Geordie already. You don't have to say it again.
I know. That's the tight shirts. I mean, that's Newcastle. I'm surprised he actually wears a shirt, because when I've been in Newcastle and Durham, most of them on a Friday and Saturday night, they're just wandering about with no shirts on, challenging you to a fight.
Solid.
Maybe stereotyping a little bit, but that's the experience that I had down there. He ran a Brazilian soccer skills school, which when I read that, I was like, interesting. I don't know if it was just soccer skills for folk with Brazilians or for Brazilians or how that worked, but we'll ask him about that. He also... was a high-up coach in Sunderland's academy, youth academy. So he has done some stuff, just not at the senior game. And I think this is a fair question. And the article which you were talking about earlier, there were some salient points in it, but a lot of it got lost just because of the general tone, sexism and garbage that was spouted in it. But I think it is valid to ask, can he take what he did in the women's game, all his motivational side and stuff like that, is it as easily transferable to the men's game where you're dealing with some big egos?
Big egos.
And I know folk are saying, why have they got big egos? They're not playing in the top level. Male footballers
at
whatever
all
levels have egos.
The
I've
men,
had it at East Fife before.
The men
Take that off your bingo card. Is the East Fife mentioned?
The men that are playing on the weekend here at the park.
Oh yeah,
That
famous
set up cones.
Oh.
Set up cones for posts and everything like that. They have egos.
Yeah, everyone's got egos.
So men are definitely a different coach, just in personality.
Yeah. And I know no one knows for certain, Zach, but do you see that management style? That, come on, guys, let's get into your mental psyche and all that stuff. Do you think that is going to transfer easily to the men's game? And especially, you know a lot of the Canadian players to kind of talk to. Do you think they'll be welcoming to that?
I think if the players have the approach of, hey, I want Canada to do well, I want to play a role in it. If they come in with a positive attitude, I think it should be fine, right? We talk a lot about professionalism and all that kind of stuff. I think if everyone comes into it with in a healthy way, I think I'm not too worried about that. You listen to Rob will sometimes say, football's a pretty simple game, right? And so I think if they're able to say, hey, yeah, this is the person in charge. Like the last guy, like the guy before him, let's just allow him to play his role, and I'll play my role. And if we're all working together for the same goal, anything's possible.
Well, yeah.
So for me, it's no, yeah. You do talk to players, and yeah, some players. I've talked to players who enjoyed managers who were like that. I think Martin Rennie in some ways was like that, right? He was,
yes.
You think about the whole, Eric Castley and having a traumatic incident when he was younger, so he didn't like to head the ball anymore, and him trying to work with him on that, and then you had, and then there's players from that era who you talk to and they say, hey, I didn't like that kind of stuff. It wasn't for me. So but that also often ties into playing time, and being selected.
Exactly. It's like when you speak to Whitecaps players over the years as well, the ones that's got a bit of an axe to grind are usually the guys that's not playing regular first team football and getting selected every week. Just the last thing I want to say on this is, from watching the Sportsnet interview, he needs to be way better with the players and with the media than he came across in that. That felt like you were watching a TED Talk. It was full of buzzwords. It was a waste of 19 minutes. 19 minutes, and I know this is a bit rich coming from us who rattle on for 2 hours, but what he said in 19 minutes, he could have said in 4 minutes. It's like nothing was said. Like you watched 19 minutes and there was nothing that you really took from it. I don't know. But it was
that's true, and that's fair, and it, it's maybe the first thing, and it's only a couple days old or whatever, So
he wasn't a bit of shock. He did admit.
When it comes to with the players, that's totally different than with the media, right? So you can say I didn't like how he did with the media. That doesn't mean he's going to be the exact same with the players.
But I could see a player watching that and going, "What the hell have we got here?" I can also, I genuinely can see a time where he says something to a player that's pissed off and says, "What do you know about men's football?" I genuinely could see that happening, because I would probably do it if it was me that was in that position. But it was a bizarre week in international football appointments. Apart from Herdman, Gary Neville took over as the England women's head coach.
Which is the job that John Herdman was going for.
Also, I have been told from some sources over there, Herdman was never offered the English women's
I don't
job.
think so. Not a Neville was going.
But Neville's been quite disparaging about the women's game over the years, so that's an interesting appointment.
And then
Ryan Giggs looks like he's he's going to get the Welsh job with no experience at that level either. So we can knock Herdman for not having experience of the men's game. Ryan Giggs, though, he's got experience of the men's game, but not at international level. At least Herdman's got that.
If he's got decent assistants, it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
Like if you have decent assistants, usually you can sneak by. But
so we're not losing Robbo yet,
no.
Well, unless Giggs completely makes a mess of it.
Now, Herdman wasn't the only one appointed for Canadian soccer.
It was a very busy week for Canadian soccer.
The Canadian Premier League has a new head person.
Yes. David Clanachan is how I'm going with the name. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it.
Oh, no,
or
he
not.
said it out loud yet?
I don't know. I've not that I've heard. The first chairman and commissioner, long-time Tim's Horton executive. How did you feel about that, Zach? I'll admit, and Stephen, we had a little chat about this off air, I was surprised that it wasn't someone with a lot more football, soccer experience, that it was more a business executive. Is this guy just in charge to get the business side of it up and running, do you feel?
Yeah, no, that's what this is about. He is not going to be the. I mean, he plays football and he knows football and stuff, but he's not. Yeah, he's not the maybe football insider in terms of playing the game at a high level, coaching, managing, having been an agent, whatever, that kind of stuff. But he is the person who's going to help foster and nurture the financial side of this league, I think. And so in that sense, I think it's a very positive announcement. I think from the rumblings I've heard, I think there's support and I think satisfaction amongst some of the people or most of the people who are, or maybe even all the people who are interested in, building these clubs across the country. And so, I think it's a very positive step. I think for a lot of people who have been cynical or been questioning if and when this will ever happen, again, I think this is another marker that shows that it's happening, and now there's a clock on it.
Spring 2019.
April 2019. It sounds like so. That's another positive thing, and the announcement of more of the clubs in the months ahead. That's also something
or any clubs.
Very positive,
because we don't actually officially have any clubs yet.
Well, Hamilton and Winnipeg, right? Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
okay.
Like officially, no one's actually said this is a club.
Right.
And the thing is, you bring him in, and because he's the like all the other commissioners in other sports in North America, none of them really have a major background. At the most, one that's maybe played their sport in college. So they're always looking for the business side, because the one thing you need for any league to be successful is sponsors. And you need a guy that can attract sponsors. He's going
to have great contacts.
And exactly. Can you imagine Tim Hortons might be the league sponsor for the league? So it'd be excellent there. And the thing is you have the right people underneath, the soccer minds underneath him he's going to be the head, and you're going to have other people working as his limbs or whatever, and moving pieces around, and that's what you want in any league. The thing is, while he doesn't, people say he doesn't have a soccer mind, he is saying promising things, because he's talking about, for you guys especially, you guys are big into promotion, relegation, fan
I was excited
ownership.
by that. He's talking about like three divisions eventually, pro-rel. I mean, that ticks the boxes for me. Fan ownership, or at least heavy fan community involvement is something that he'd like to see.
Exactly. So he's saying the right thing. He's definitely been, if he doesn't have all the knowledge, he's already been schooled in what to say and everything to get people excited. And
we are planning to have a chat with him very soon, so we will feature that on a future show. So exciting stuff. Just before we close out this section, just some other Canada news quickly. 9 Whitecaps women were called up to the under-20 squad for the CONCACAF Championships, which kicks off on Wednesday. Qualification tournament for the under-20 World Cup in France later this year. Jordan Huitema, Julia Grosso and Emma Reagan, 3 of those 9 Whitecaps, so wish them all the best. Get to a World Cup would be fantastic. 2 Whitecaps guys, Alphonso Davies and Thomas Hassel, called into the under-23 Olympic preparation camp in Florida. Davies already. Also there? Who? Sorry.
Isn't Caden also there?
I don't know, but he's not classed as a Whitecap anymore. So.
All right, he's a former Whitecap.
Yes, he has moved on. I'm just looking at current Whitecaps. There's a few former Whitecaps or Whitecaps.
Michael turns his back once you leave the club.
Yeah, once they go, they're dead to me. But Davies scored 2 in the 5-2 win over Montverde Academy, so that'll get his confidence back. Another Canadian, not Canadian, but another Whitecap away internationally. Tim Parker was called into the US 17-day camp, so he's going to miss the first week of pre-season here in Vancouver. In their 30-man squad, hopefully. Last year he was called in, or 2 years ago he was called in, but didn't feature. So hopefully he gets to play the friendly against Bosnia.
There's a lot of competition there at centre back for the Americans, so it'd be a big accomplishment if he gets some playing time against Bosnia.
It's a great thing for Timmy after a quality season. I feel happy for him.
Yeah. So, Zach, do you want to hang around for a bit more, or do you kind of need to head off just now?
I'll hang around a bit more if you'll allow me to.
We will. Then we'll be back with some more chat after this. Slade there, and come on, feel the noise. I'm persevering with Slade because I got a really good reception during the week on Twitter.
I do recognise that song.
See, folk do know Slade. What I've decided to do for one of the segments back, now I usually leave this in your hands, Steve, but for one of the segments every week, I thought it would be kind of nice to play a non-football song by a band that's featured in Wavelength. Okay. So I'll have lots of Goldie Luke and Shane stuff coming up.
That should be fun.
I'll try and find the ones where they don't swear, or at least have bits where they don't swear, so we don't have to mark every single episode explicit. But yeah, that was Slade. So as I said, they got a really good reception. Folk are definitely warming to them. But you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, broadcasting from the unceded Musqueam territory at the University of British Columbia. Michael McCall, Steve Pander in the studio, Zachary Meisenheimer joining us on the telephone. And now, we've talked about the busy week in Whitecaps land. We've talked about the busy week for Canadian soccer. And MLS, it's just been a really busy start to the year.
Yeah, usually it doesn't. I don't remember it going like this.
Clubs are adding players left, right, and centre. Yeah. It's like, the big drama, though, is Canadian.
Yeah.
Cyle Larin, he's going to Turkey. Or is he a Turkey and he's not going to Turkey? It's so much drama involved. Besiktas tweeted out a photograph saying that they were basically in negotiations, showing him in all his
testing
and very Camilo style in a Besiktas strip with two thumbs up, not one, two thumbs up this time.
Yeah. He's closer.
Orlando City immediately are like, he's our player, he's not getting transferred, we expect him to come to pre-season camp, don't think that's happening. It looks a big mess. Is he going to try and test MLS's option thing legally? If he does, how does that go? Does it go through the US courts? Does it go through FIFA? Does it go through the International Court of Arbitration for Sport?
Yeah.
So many different ways that this could go. I'm kind of excited about it because personally, I just feel that the whole system needs to get tested in the courts. And then if MLS hopefully lose, then that whole option system, which I frankly find ridiculous, gets blown up.
Yeah.
But what's your thoughts on it, Zach? Obviously, it's a Canadian national team player, but you must be enjoying it a little bit and rubbing your hands at what mess might play out with this.
No, I'm with you on this. It would be great to see this challenged and the players to have freedom in the way that they do around the world. When it comes to being out of contract, I will say this actually, because I can't remember who told it to me. I can't remember which player or coach or friend of one of theirs told me this, but there actually are other parts of the world where they do have options that are unilateral to the club.
Oh, interesting.
So I can't remember what country it was in or whatever, but I have to, because I remember when I heard it, I was like, "Hang on, say that again."
I've heard in England, like I'm just like looking through like transactions. I've seen where people say, "Oh, the team has declined its option on this player." England might be one of them, but those were lower levels, so I don't know if it's different.
I've never heard of it in the leagues that I follow, which is not a lot of leagues. So I mean. Interesting. I mean, I know Australia's kind of got an MLS-style system, so maybe they operate something like that. The word that came out was under the last CBA, which personally I feel the players were somewhat shafted with that CBA. that was agreed a couple of years ago now.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the players that were negotiating it were senior players. From the Whitecaps side, you had Stephen Beitashour and Jordan Harvey. So they agreed free agency. Both those players have now benefited from free agency. So the senior players were quite happy with that CBA, but it's the younger players and the players new to the league that they did get kind of shafted in this. But part of that CBA appears to have been that all players then had to sign an option acknowledgement agreement saying that they acknowledged that there was an option and that it was legally binding, etc., etc.
The Camilo clause.
Yes. I'm really, really fascinated and interested to see, would that hold up in court, just that one part alone, or is it not even worth the paper it's printed on? And very different, I guess, in some way. But when I was working in Scotland before I moved over here, I was originally planning to move over here in 2006, but I delayed it by a year. So I'd given notice to my work. Actually, no, I hadn't yet, but they knew I was going to be leaving, so they offered me a kind of promotion to do a project, but I had to sign this letter saying that at the end of the project, I wasn't allowed to go back to my old job and I would have no job because I'd told them I was about to leave to emigrate. So I took advice on that and I was told, yes, sign it, because that's not, you've got your work contract, that's not legally binding at all. They're just throwing something else at you that's nothing to do with it. So I don't know whether this option acknowledgement agreement would hold up. And the thing is, no one knows what's going to hold up in court. No one knows what court is going to go through.
Yeah.
That's why I want to see it tested.
Now, the thing is just to give you guys a little bit of information for CBAs, whenever there's been a CBA and it's been challenged in court, the CBA always holds up. So in American courts, there was an incident where a certain football player was suspended for 6 games by the commissioner, even though there was very little evidence. He was never charged with a crime. He was never even arrested or anything like that. He was still suspended for 6 games. The player took the league to court saying that there was no, like, basically giving all the evidence, and there was very little evidence other than the other person's word. And the suspension held up. The court said, you guys signed the CBA. You guys agreed to this, and this is what's going to hold up. So if they take it through American court, it's not. Yeah, it's going to be shot down.
Yeah, they've no chance of winning that.
I don't know about FIFA. For the court of arbitration, I looked into that. Both parties have to agree to that arbitration, and I don't think MLS will go there.
No, too risky for them.
And I also looked to see what things they've done recently. There's been no North American leagues that they've dealt with. So I don't think... now, FIFA is the wild card. If FIFA does something, then maybe you got something there. But other than that, it's going to hold up in American court.
Well, you don't want to piss off FIFA when you're having a vote on hosting the World Cup in your country in 5 months' time.
I don't know how much that has to do with anything, but...
But I think Besiktas and Larin will try and push this as much as possible. And... It's hard not to compare it to the Camilo situation. I know, but there's some differences with that.
Well, the thing is, they never got away with that.
No.
That option was legitimate because they had to pay.
Neither party was confident of winning if it went to court. So that was the thing with
that
as well.
The Whitecaps, you can say the Whitecaps didn't even want Camilo back at that point, because why would you when the player's already done all this to get out? So they took the transfer fee and then they walked away.
So I've heard speculation this week that some people were suggesting that the Mexican club in that situation didn't actually really pay money. It was MLS just giving Whitecaps allocation money.
But that's some people speculating. That's not...
Yeah. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how it plays out. If Larin ends up back in Orlando, even for a stint of pre-season, I'm going to be quite stunned, because it looks like it's gone way beyond that.
But my thing is Orlando knows this player wants to go. Why don't you, in good faith, negotiate with the other club and figure out a thing? Like, I'm assuming, this is my assumption, is that they have said no to Besiktas, and that's why they're going through with this. It seems like to me.
I do think, and I've heard murmurs that they were shopping Larin around within the league.
Within the league? I don't understand why
they know he
that.
wants to go, so it's like, get rid of him, then he's not their problem.
Yeah.
That's why I'd mentioned there was some Whitecaps interest.
Yeah, but I think why not just sell him off? If you should have sold him off in the summer when you picked up Dom Dwyer. The guy wanted to leave. He was already in some legal issues. So why not sell him off at that point?
It's even more awkward than that because they've known he doesn't want to play in MLS. They know he wants to go to Europe. And the reason why they haven't done anything until this time was because they want to get the most they can from the ridiculous MLS transfer out of the league policy, money, whatever, which supposedly, did they change or they were going to change? So I don't know.
Anyways, it's changed.
I think teams get more,
So now his agent / Besiktas has been like, oh, okay, they don't really have a contract. We don't have to pay anything for him. We'll have him for free. So I really do. I do hope it goes to the court for arbitration of sport or whatever, and we once and for all know where things stand.
I mean, everyone knows about the Bosman rule. Maybe we're going to have the Larin rule, and that's what folk will be talking about in years to come. But we talked about so many players being added to teams. Last week, I talked about my dream of having Kamara and Kamara for the Whitecaps. Looks like Ola Kamara might be heading to Colorado Rapids, which seems a bizarre.
That was actually out now.
Oh.
It was updated. Colorado is out apparently, unless they're back in again. But somebody reported that they were out because they
can't keep track of all this.
No, because he apparently wants to go. He wants to go West Coast.
Team that wins.
He wants to go West Coast.
My dream's still alive.
So that could be anywhere along, Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, 2 LA teams, San Jose. He wants.
With all the natural disasters, will California exist by the time the season starts? So it's like we're in with a shout. We could get Ola.
Yeah. But I think there is a chance, but I think the 2 LA teams might be a better shout out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that. I mean, we'll talk about LAFC in a little bit, but Atlanta, record-breaking transfer, and for an 18-year-old as well. The Argentine Ezequiel Barco from Independiente, $15 million transfer fee, which is actually less than I thought it was going to be with some of the figures that were getting floated around. Selling on fees as well of 30% in the future, reducing to 10% after 2020. Magnificent pickup for Atlanta. Game-changing, I think, for the league as well, Zach.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a huge thing. Has it been finalized yet, or is it?
I don't think so. I think it's as close to being finalised as Juarez is to come into the Whitecaps.
Is anything finalised in MLS ever?
MLS basically reported it was pretty much done.
Until the player shows up on the field, on the training pitch, it's not finalized for me. But I think they're going to sell somebody off because they can't.
Oh, they have to.
They're not, one of the two players, either Martinez or the what's his name, Almiron. I think one of those two guys are going to be sold off at this point.
You would think so
because there is interest in Europe for those two.
And some interesting news of players going from MLS or going from America to Mexico. Giles Barnes has joined Liga MX side Club Leon. He wanted to play in the Heat, so he's now got the Heat. But he's got an interesting new teammate, Landon Donovan, coming out of retirement to join Club Leon as well.
Yeah.
MLS's all-time leader in goals at 145. Now, he's still only 35. I've always felt he did retire a bit early and he had a lot more to give. Like him or loathe him, he's a talent.
Yeah, he's the talent, but it seems like he gets really tired really fast.
Yeah.
And he just needs a break and then he comes back and then he needs a break again.
Yeah, I'm going to have to choose my words carefully here.
Why?
Really
he's not listening to this.
He might
be.
No,
but I know he's done a lot for American football, don't get me wrong, right? The league's named their MVP award after him for whatever reason.
Which is now ironic that they've named it after a current Mexican player. So, yeah.
Exactly. But he, to me, has really underachieved in his ultimate, overall in his club career. Like, he underachieved because he was at, Leverkusen a couple times and kind of gave up on making the real full breakthrough in Europe. And that to me was disappointing. It was like he was a player who could have played on a full-time, not on a loan deal, on a full-time basis in one of the bigger leagues in Europe and kind of settled for MLS. And I know he did a bunch of great things, and I'm probably just bitter because, who he is and, what he's done against the countries and teams that I appreciate and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But and then retiring early, fine, no problem. You want to do that? That's no. I can respect that. But then coming back and then retiring again, and now coming back a second time, it's just I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah,
You don't want to get rubbed the wrong way.
no, he has had more retirements than anything really, but it's going to be interesting to see how he does, and if he still does it. I mean, I do agree he has underperformed.
Maybe he came
in a
back
lot
for
of
the World
ways.
Cup.
Oh, that'd be hilarious. The next one, he can still do it at 39.
Oh
I'm
no,
pretty
maybe
sure.
he doesn't. Oh yeah, that's right. Americans are out. I forgot about that.
But yeah, it's a surprising one. But let's just finish this section by talking about the new kids on the block. LAFC, another busy week for them.
They got a Whitebacks fullback.
Yeah,
Two now.
They've got two ex-Whitecaps fullbacks. Jordan Harvey officially announced. Stephen Beitashour looks that he's there as a free agent as well. So LAFC loved the Whitecaps' league-leading defence of 2015 so much that they've added both their right backs.
Bradley could have been coaching that if
Or
he took the job.
fullbacks. Oh yeah, Bradley could have.
He could have taken. He could have. Now
Yeah.
he's got him in LA.
Bradley was never taking the job.
I'm just obviously it's a joke.
We know.
You should. You see, you have to be here to see my face when I was saying it.
Yeah, he did a smiley emoji and everything. But yeah, I mean, great for LAFC, but quite an old fullbacks that they've kind of got, but talent anyway.
Yeah.
Mark Dos Santos, who was the guy that I would have loved to have seen as Canadian men's national team head coach, said he's done everything he can at Division 2 level. Folk expected him to possibly take an MLS head coaching job, but I think this is a good move for him.
For sure.
Because he gets to learn the ropes under
Bradley.
Bradley, who I still feel is very overrated, and I feel his best years are way in the past.
Yeah.
But he's in a good position to possibly take over from Bradley or get another job. One of three assistants named by LAFC.
It's a spotlight job too, as an assistant. Like
Yeah.
you're in the spotlight because you're with Bradley and in the new environment
Yeah.
too. So it's gonna be big there.
And we'll get him here when Robbo moves on.
Michael, I haven't seen. Who are the other two assistant coaches?
I can't remember. There's three assistant coaches, a managing director, and a goalkeeping coach.
One of them is Spanish.
Yeah, and one of them was a name I recognised, and off the top of my head, I can't remember what it is. I know we could quickly look it up, but technology.
So the thing about Mark Dos Santos is that this is a little bit awkward. Is when he announced a while ago that I think it was maybe before the Deltas were confirmed to be dead or whatever. He whenever he announced it that he was moving on or whatever, he's talking about what was next. He said, "I've made a decision." And so he was in San Francisco, said, I am going to be closer to home, which is
yes,
Montreal.
I remember that. That was what
Right?
we were talking about.
So-
Vancouver's still closer.
Yeah, so Portland was closer.
Yep.
So I don't know if they were looking at him there. The Canadian men's national team job, which was under discussion, I think.
I genuinely think he would have been ideal for that. But of course, he
Yeah.
may have been offered it and turned them down. This is one of the things we don't know.
So-
Steve's got the info.
Okay, so update. Zach Abdel is the coach, goalkeeping coach. He was the Canadian men's goalkeeping coach under Zambrano, so he got a job really quick. Mike Sorbo is the director of soccer operations, and the other two assistants are Ante Razov and Kenny Arena.
Oh, right.
Kenny Arena,
wow.
that was the name, yeah.
Ante Razov, wow. Speaking of former MLS players.
Yeah, that just came into my head as well, yeah.
Preki.
Yeah.
Preki, right?
Yep, going to Seattle.
Into Seattle. That's weird.
Because he was one of the guys that was even in the frame before Robbo got the job here as well. Or he was in the papers as being in the frame. Whether he really was or not, who knows? But I think he was interviewed. But they did interview tons of folk like Robin Fraser and everyone.
Well, that's because my understanding is MLS made them interview a certain number of people or something.
Yeah, but I mean,
because they didn't like how they hired Barton Rennie, without interviewing other people.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. It's like if it's a guy you want, you get that guy, and you're not telling me with some of the quick appointments there's been with other clubs in the league that they've not done what we were trying to do. But just quickly finishing on LAFC. we've praised Atlanta a lot on this show. They came in, pretty much set a new bar for expansion teams. They seem to do so much right in year one.
They are the bar.
Yes, nice wrestling reference there. LAFC look like they've taken that mantle on, and they're going to come in and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
So you're telling me they're going to be tweeted about a lot by the Whitecaps?
Oh, probably.
Twitter account.
It's going to, well, at least they only visit once.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, and so did Atlanta. Yeah, disappointingly, they're in our conference, whereas Atlanta, you could admire them from afar and wish them well because they weren't one of our rivals. But LAFC, they look like they're doing a lot of things right, and it's quite exciting to see what they can do, but a bit scary as a Whitecaps fan. Would you not agree, Zach?
Yeah, I think. Well, in terms of there being another big player in your conference, yeah, you don't want more barriers to winning trophies and
one less playoff spot to possibly fill.
Right. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out, and their stadium and their ownership and the way they're investing in the squad. It's gonna be interesting.
Well, that is it for this section on MLS chat. We've got a couple more sections to go. We're going to talk about the MLS SuperDraft in part 4 and then some other stuff in part 5. But we're going to bid Zach farewell at this point. So just before you go, Zach, just let everyone know where they can find you online.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. It's @ZacharyAM, and I'm part of the Movement Curve Collective.
I know you're going to be disappointed that you're missing Wavelength. That's coming up in part 4. But wish you a good week. Hope everything has a great week for you. And we'll talk to you next Sunday. And final positive thing to leave you with, your Christmas present has finally arrived. So next time I see you, you'll get that. And I got the same thing, and I love it, and I think you'll love it too. So thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
All right. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Zach.
Bye.
And we'll be back with more after this.
Hi, I'm Carl Robinson. You're listening to the AFTN podcast.
So a lot has been fitted in so far. Jam-packed show. Hope you've been enjoying it so far. Really enjoyed the chat. It's nice to get back in the swing of things and such a busy week to talk about, I've got to say.
We thought we were busy last week, but this week was just
it's got. I was feeling a little bit jaded for this season. I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't excited, but I'm kind of feeling it a bit more now, and this busy week's kind of really helped.
Yeah.
And the draft coming up on Friday, and we're going to talk about that shortly, that's kind of got me a little bit excited as well. But before we get to that, let's just break things up a little bit. It's time for our Wavelength section of the show. Now, in part 2, we talked about John Herdman getting the Canada job, Ryan Giggs getting the Welsh job. So I thought we'd go back to Wales for Wavelength. In fact, the next 3 weeks, I'm going to go Welsh on us. Honour, homage of Robbo and all that kind of stuff. Got a few Welsh bands lined up for some Wavelength stuff. But I think we'll go with Manic Street Preachers this week. And a song they did, which was the official Welsh World Cup anthem for Euro 2016. And it's a fantastic song. So let's just hear that now. Manic Street Preachers with Together Stronger, Come On Wales.
Chris Coleman's men have freed Welsh football from the shackles of their history. Half a century and more of heartache, of last gasp failure. Now they know. Now they've done it.
Not since 1958, when Brazil would make our hearts break. But now that France has arrived, it feels so good to be alive. Let's not forget Gary Speed. He wore his heart upon his sleeve. And if he is looking down, then our love is all around.
One could almost say that was a Scottish hand.
Certainly Jordan's hand went up as well. Let's have a look.
I think it was Jordan.
Now this latest setback, which leaves everyone wondering when, if ever, Wales will eventually make it to the finals of the international competition.
So come around, say let's set the world alight. tragic. But now the past is all gone. The future is ours to be won. You're just too good to be true. We can't take our eyes off you.
History beckons as the Russians kick off. It's Wales 0, Russia 1. The final whistle blows. The dream is dead.
So come on, Ramsey, let's set the world alight. When Gareth Bale plays, we can beat any side. So come on, Wales. So come on, Wales. With Ashley Williams, we can win any fight. Chrissy Coleman, Gunter Chester, Hennessy, Allen, King and Collins, Davis, Ledley, Taylor, Richards, Hal Robson, Carew. So come on, Ramsey, let's set the world alight. When Gareth Bale plays, we can beat any side. So come on, Wales. So come on, Wales. Together stronger, we'll win if we unite.
Drink a Bale! 1-0 Wales! Gareth Bale strikes again!
Manic Street Preachers there with Together Stronger, Come On Wales. I really like that. I think that's a fantastic way.
Very inspirational.
So hopefully you enjoyed that. So let's get back to some MLS talk. And yeah, MLS SuperDraft is coming up in Philadelphia on Friday. And
Seems to always be in Philadelphia. Is that the right?
well, it was in LA last year.
Was it?
because
Okay.
I was thought about going down for it hard, did go down for it. LAFC have the number one pick, but
they're shopping it
yeah, well,
as usual.
they've not said they are or they aren't. They have said they've received multiple offers from the
okay.
top spot. And Kevin Kincaid actually said that Philly are interested in trading for that top spot. I mean, to get the top spot and you're hosting the draft, that would create a bit of a buzz.
Yeah.
But LAFC said, you never say never in this game. It's like you don't know what's going to happen. That there's a number of players. Like, I haven't paid a lot of attention to the college game this year. I have in previous years, but done a little bit of research for this show. And there seems to be three guys in all the mock drafts. There's three guys that are up there as possibly being in the top three or maybe even the number one pick. You've got Akron defender João Moutinho.
Yep.
Stanford centre-back Thomas Hilliard-Arce. Michigan winger Francis Atuhene. They've all been moved as first picks. And you had another one, I think,
There was
as well.
there was a couple other ones. They're not like some people have them high up, but some people have them like lower. So they're not consensus. The three
That's the thing.
The three you mentioned are all in the top four range.
Yeah.
And so they're considered to be going to be in that area. Some people can be dropped. Like, we've seen players that were ranked in the top three and then get dropped to 8 or 9 or something. Or some people get out of the top 10.
I can't remember the player of what year it was. There was this one guy that was expected to go top 5, and then he didn't. Then it was top 10, and then he didn't, and he's dropping further and further down. And he just looked so miserable. It kept panning to him. It's like, but like one of the guys we mentioned there, Francis Atuhene. I have no idea how you pronounce his name. Let's just call him Francis from now on. He's Ghanaian.
He's Michigan. He's from Michigan as well.
From Michigan, and I like of those three, I really like him. Robbo hinted he might be willing to trade up for his pick because the Caps are 17th.
Yeah, that's
I don't know.
high.
Not sure what you're going to get at 17th.
You have to package a lot of things.
Send them Brickshea. Send them Brickshea. Get an international spot in this pick. I'd be happy.
Yeah.
But 24 goals in 3 seasons with Michigan, and he looks good and fast, and he's the Kikuta Mane of this draft, possibly. And we all know how that worked out.
I think he's a little bigger too. He's got a little size as well.
International. Yeah. But I think
if you're in the top, if you're picking a player in the top 5, you're okay to pick an international. After that, it's kind of, you really have to like the guy. because you're spending it, unless you're going to be putting him in USL for the first year too, because that's always an option.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, and it's like the choice is facing Robbo. Do you trade up to get a top guy, a top-rated guy, a General Adidas guy? Do you trade up a little bit to get a guy that's kind of middle of the first round, but you're worried someone else might take him? Do you go for a project?
Yeah.
They've got a second-round pick now. I mean, we didn't actually mention it in the first part with Whitecaps news. David Ousted officially gone to DC
and
in return for a second-round draft pick. So the Caps now have their second-round pick back, picking 17 in round 1. My guess is they're going to go right back or centre back. That's where they've had their success in recent years. Robbo talked about that on Wednesday. They've had a lot of success. Nerwinski, Parker. Cole Cyle didn't break through the way I think that they hoped that he would, and he's moved on to pastures new now. But they had success with Nerwinski, and I've looked at it. For me, the guy that interests me the most is Tristan Blackman. Free scoring forward in his early years at high school and even his first year with Pacific Tigers before transitioning to a defender. Was Rookie of the Year as a forward in his first year, but he's now a defender, versatile defender, can play right back. That's mostly what he's played with Pacific Tigers, but can also play centre back, and he's very comfortable in a 3 in the back system.
He would. Well, I don't know how comfortable. He hasn't played it as much, but I think he's got the.
Well, I said he would be
attributes.
Ideal for it, right?
Yeah, he's got the attributes to be able to play in a 3 in the back situation, because he's got this. I think he's got decent size and speed and athletic ability. It's just a matter of learning the position more.
What was on the Herdman Trophy watch list?
Yeah.
Looking at some of the mock drafts. Soccer by Eves had him going 11th.
Yeah.
Bleacher Report and Top Drawer Soccer had him going 9th, which would be to New England.
Yeah.
MLS, Matt Doyle's one, had him going 7th to Montreal.
And there was one that had him going 20th. I can't remember the name of that one was, but I think it was College Soccer News. I think they had him at 20th. So
I mean, mock draft, it's a pig in a poke.
Because you don't know what everybody's thinking and what they need and what they want. Because even if somebody needs something right now, you think they need something. Say you think somebody needs a backup goalkeeper. They might already looking at a backup goalkeeper. They just haven't acquired him yet, and they're just waiting for MLS paperwork to get through before they sign him. So you can't always assume, this is what they need. People need to draft. Usually, I personally think, especially in an MLS draft, you need to draft the best player.
Well, yeah, that's the other conundrum.
Best domestic player, actually, I should say, because especially
because you've got a thing about not going for the internationals,
because you can get internationals from outside, like a freeze and stuff like that,
tried and tested ones.
And the hardest thing because of the numbers. You do have some Canadians on Vancouver now. You're able to do it, but in the past you didn't even have that. You had to build up your domestic players, and Americans count as domestic for Canada. So you need to pick up those domestic players in order to fill out their roster. Yeah.
Now it's a tricky one. I just have this feeling that the Caps are going to trade up.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be a lot of. They have to. I think.
Well, if they do, like Blackman seems to me to be the only real guy that they might want to trade up for. Though.
Yeah, if they move up about 10 spots, which is what they probably need to do, 7 to 10 spots, they probably have to. They have to shell out probably 100,000. And is that worth it?
The thing with Blackman that might actually fall in their favour is he apparently had a terrible first day at the Combine.
Yeah.
Which any club that puts their faith in what happens at the Combine, they deserve to get ripped off in the draft. It's like nonsense. It's like you've got 4 years of college to go by.
Yeah.
Someone can have an off day. The best players in the world can have an off day. Look at, like, Messi misses a penalty. Does that make him terrible?
No.
And in that first Combine, Blackman was actually up against this Francis Atuhene guy.
Yeah, the one you like.
Yeah, ripped him to pieces and gave him a torrid time. Maybe everyone would have that thing. Maybe this guy just played out of his skin that day.
No, the thing is also you got to look at that we don't know what levels everybody's at. Like
exactly,
so
nerves
it's hard to tell.
Come into it as well.
Exactly, and the thing is but the thing is, the problem is a lot of these. There's so many players in college soccer that it's hard to scout everybody. And so you're really relying on coaches telling you your sources, telling you who's good and who's not.
Caps have lost Alan Koch as well.
Yeah.
He did a lot of that in the previous years.
So I know you like Tristan Blackman. There's a couple other players to mention as well. One is from the Washington Huskies, Justin Fiddles. He's a left back though. But because you sold SM Adekugbe officially over to the Norwegian team this week, that maybe you need to fill that spot in, because Brett Levi's, I know he's coming back from injury. He's still not, well, he's probably 100%, but he's still not 100% game shape because he hasn't played in a long time. And
he is
consistently
untested in MLS, really.
Yeah. So Justin Fiddles is another guy if you want to fill in the left back.
Which could be a project that even maybe goes to Fresno.
Yeah. And another guy who is a project, who is, if you miss out on Tristan Blackman, is Brandon Bai from Western Michigan. He's basically he's similar to what Blackman was the the forward converter to right back. He actually
seems to happen so much.
Yeah, he actually is a winger, but the people who have seen him play feel like he would be better suited as an overlapping fullback, which is what something that Robbo loves. He was named to the All-American team. He also was a semifinalist for the Herdman Trophy, and was an All-American scholar athlete for soccer as well. So that's he's book smart. I don't know how much that goes to a football IQ, but it's got to be something there.
The Caps like these kind of guys.
It's coachable.
Yeah, because Francis de Vries they drafted last year, and very intelligent guy.
Yeah.
One of the most intelligent guys actually that I've ever spoken to football wise. It's like crazy, and they like these character guys, and folks that are able to play football and are good scholarly.
Yeah.
That's the kind of things that coaches like, because it just shows their commitment.
Yeah, and he's also not only that, he's in the combine testing, which I know, again, how much do you put into that? He was one of the better testers.
Well, testing's still important. To me, that makes more sense than how they play in one game.
Yeah, he's got
a bunch of folk they've never met in their
life.
He
was one of the fastest guys. He was one of the guys, more agile guys, and actually one of the stronger guys too. So he was basically in the top 5 or top 10 at least for all 3 of those categories, which is rare for a fullback to be. So it's interesting there. A couple of wingers they could go. Brian White from Duke, if they want to go winger exclusively. Alan Wynn and Mohamed Thiaw from Louisville is another guy. A couple of second round options if they want to go here. There's a number 10 that a lot of the experts, again, we're not experts, we're just reading what other people are talking about. Rafael Andrade Santos from VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University. He's a central midfielder. They claim, a lot of people are talking about him being the best number 10 in the draft. But he is Brazilian, so he will be an international.
If he's the best number 10, would he go in the second round?
Only because he's Brazilian, because he's international. That's why he's not higher rated. And still, again, number 10 in college is not going to be as good as the number 10 you could find somewhere else.
True.
So he'd be a developmental player. A couple of forwards, target forwards, Ricky Lopez Espin and Marcelo Acuna, who's a Costa Rican but has a green card. Those a couple options. Both of those guys are, I believe 6'2 plus, like they're 6'2 or 6'3. So they're true like target forwards. So they got that second rounder, which is I think the 3rd pick in the second round. So they can get somebody who fell out of the first round.
True.
And pick up a kind of a steal.
It's going to be interesting. Looking forward to seeing how this plays out. And
do they pick the brother of a Sounder player?
Oh yeah,
Alex Roldán.
Yes.
So that's another option, I guess.
Yeah.
If they want that number 6. So
we'll see how that goes. Looking forward to Friday. As always, we'll have interviews with the draft picks, the top 2. Usually they scrum the first one, and then the second round picks usually just available to whoever. I always like to speak to them.
Yeah. Because some of the later picks are the ones that have more interesting stories.
Well, that is the thing usually. Yeah. And it's always good to get new blood to ask about chocolate digestives and fish and chips and stuff like that. Which brings us nicely to round off this part with one of our regular food segments. We're going to talk takeout food this week with Robert Earnshaw.
So we have 5 minutes?
No, it's not that long. Okay. So Robert Earnshaw, take me out.
Take me out!
You're at home at night, you can't be bothered cooking, you're going to get some takeout food. What is your takeout food of choice?
Whew. It used to be Chinese food. But now I would say takeout is probably turned into pizza.
Oh.
Yeah, turned into pizza. And there's some, I actually found in Vancouver, there's some really, really nice places for pizza. That's probably why. So
any particular, like, what would be your go-to pizza then to order?
Lately I've been having this, there's a nice little place I found, and they do it's like sausage with a little bit of onions and some garlic. You can add some other meats in there, like a bit of pepperoni. And then I've been adding, to finish it off, this is the secret, between me and you.
John Herdman gave us all his ice cream secrets, so that's good.
What you finish off is some truffle on the top.
Oh.
Yeah, so that pizza there, and then you finish with some truffle on the top, and that's the secret. Once you put the truffle on, it's like magic,
Thank you so much for your time today, Ian.
To the shop, I went to the chip shop, went to the burger shop, did it on a lunch stop. Hey, hey, I want a Johnny takeaway. Hey, hey, woo, woo, woo. Hey, hey, I want a Johnny takeaway. Hey, hey, woo, woo, woo.
Hey, it's Stefan Runovic, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
It's time for a Flash 5.
Flash 5. Rank it, baby. 5 to 1.
AFTN. So it's Flash 5. We are at the end of a series of Flash 5s where we counted down the top 5 Whitecaps goals for each year. And now we're going to put it all together and we give you our top 5 all-time MLS goals by the Whitecaps. Ready to go, Michael?
Yep. Spoiler, mine's just Anthony Bladell's winner to win the 2018 MLS Cup.
Oh, okay. So you're going in the future.
Yeah.
So you're I think you've been binging on Doctor Who too much. You're jumping around time.
I went in the TARDIS, had a look to see what was happening with my jelly babies. And yeah, that's just what's going to happen. So big spoilers for everyone there.
So I'm going to give a couple, I wasn't going to do honorable mention, but I got to give these guys a couple shouts. So first of all, Alain Rochat's goal against Philadelphia in 2011, where Cumiento worked it down, and I'm giving it because Cumiento might be a future Whitecap as well.
Just currying fever.
Yeah, so he came down the sideline, right sideline, cut inside, gave it to Hasley, who gave it right back to Cumiento, took it, passed it over to the left side where Rochat was there, and he gave a wicked shot right inside the post, great goal. And then Cumiento's goal against the Red Bulls in 2011. Again, this was Camilo heading to the end line.
He's been mentioned a lot tonight.
Yeah, so Camilo into the end line, put it back inside, and kind of a kick up by Cumiento, turns around and just fires the top corner. Great goal. But we'll start with number 5, 2014. Eric Hurtado. Yes, you wouldn't expect Eric Hurtado to maybe be in the top 5 all time, but he is in there. Great goal against Seattle.
We said last week, he doesn't score often, but when he does, they are stunning goals.
It was a fantastic goal. He was set up, sent down the right side. He kind of actually started it because he intercepted a pass and broke up a play by Seattle. But then eventually he got the ball back down the sideline, took out, basically put down Alonso. He just took him out of the game, took him out of the play. But Alonso came back again. Then he ran into his own defender. Hurtado cut back towards the end line, and then he just fired it, just a screamer over Fry's head, who would be still in concussion protocol if he had been hit by that.
Fry doesn't have a good time in Vancouver, or he didn't. It's getting better for him.
Well, yeah, but the Kofi goal too, when he gave away a Kofi, that was a bad one too. Number 4, 2016, Blas Perez. against Chicago.
I love this one.
It's the game that Kudo got knocked out. Speaking of people getting knocked out.
Yeah. So tying together.
Yeah. So Blas Perez, I think it was the 87th, 88th minute. Just basically the ball got to him up in the air. He just turned it over. Came very close to hitting the Chicago defender in the face, which might have negated the goal. Got in the net. He had no idea that it was in the net when he got up.
And then when look on his face.
Yeah, he just ran at that point.
Yeah,
it was
wonderful.
crazy. Great goal. Sent the crowd in just utter chaos. Number 3, 2012, Eric Hasley, TFC. It was a Voyageurs Cup game. TFC was up 1-0, so they had the away goal. Vancouver away goal plus the lead. Obviously, that's a double hit on that one. But they were able to get the ball. Hasley on the right side of the box, able to get it over to him. One-timed it, curved it up into the top corner. Just a brilliant goal. Again, sent everybody in a frenzy.
And sent him to TFC. They liked what they saw of him, and he ended up there.
Yeah, it was a great deal for them and us.
He was another guy that made a habit of scoring spectacular goals, of course.
For sure. One of the greatest goal scorers, we talked about him earlier, Camilo, is number 2, 2013 against Portland, the scorpion kick.
Oh, yeah.
Again, I think this was another a game tire. I think they were down 2-1, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. But I think Will Johnson had put them up 2-1. And then Camilo tied it up 2-2. I think YP Lee had a hand in that goal. But then we go number 1. People probably already had it pegged down. 2011, first year.
2011?
Was it? It was 2011.
No. Montero scored last year with
that
that one.
No. I'm talking about
that's not the
goal.
number 1?
No.
Oh.
2011, Seattle. Eric Hasley. Second
need to
time.
remind me of this. I don't remember this.
It was up for an SB.
No idea what that is.
Okay. So Eric Hasley, I think again here Seattle had gone up 2-1.
Yes, they had.
And then Eric Hasley scored a wonder goal, one that basically kind of broke the internet for a while there.
So nonchalant about it as well, just like...
Yeah, exactly. Well, you want that from somebody. He expected he was going to score. Well, whether he did or not, I'm not sure, but he definitely showed it afterwards that he expected. So Eric Hasley gets our number 1 goal all-time MLS. Vancouver Whitecaps.
It is going to take a lot to disrupt that. If we do this in another 5 years' time...
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah. But the Camilo one's very close.
But I personally would have had Perez as 3rd.
Okay.
Because I love a bicycle kick.
A bicycle kick's great, but that goal against, I think you didn't even have it as your top goal, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I didn't. And then when we were discussing it,
But that
I had Matix that year. That was the wrong choice.
That strike was just outstanding.
Yeah.
One-time strike. Didn't even wait for it at all. Yeah. So that's our top 5.
Definitely some fantastic goals there, and
hopefully we see some goals like that.
Yeah, later. let's just hope we can add and get a couple of goals that could break into that top 5 this year. That would be fantastic. So I hope you've enjoyed that. We're going to have some more Flash 5 segments over the
For sure,
year.
and if anybody has any ideas they want us to do a Flash 5, send it to AFTN at Hotmail.
AFTN Canada at hotmail.com or Twitter at AFTN Canada.
Or you can send it to the Whitecaps beat at gmail.com as well.
And a lot more of those to come. And we're going to do some written ones as well later in the year that I've got in mind. But now it's time for BC Soccer Web headlines. BC Soccer Web headlines is brought to you in partnership with bcsoccerweb.com. Your one-stop site for news, links, information about the world's game, locally, nationally and internationally. Make it part of your daily read. bcsoccerweb.com. What's been catching your eye on the site this week, Steve?
Quite a few things. As usual, like we talked about earlier, it was a busy week.
Yeah, I mean, the list that you sent me, I was working on it before I headed out. Some I'd seen, some I hadn't, but wow, some stories this week.
No, but that's why I put it on the top, because I didn't want to scare anybody. I put up there, not all to be used. We'll figure out what we have time for and what we don't have time for. So a couple of quick hits we'll get out of the way. A funny one at Chelsea Stadium, a $1 billion Stamford Bridge. A family is disputing it in courts. They're trying to get it stopped because it's going to block their light. And Chelsea is offering a package to give up the right to light, but that's how they phrased it. But we'll see how it is and how it works.
I sympathise with the family to an extent, but you've bought a house beside a football stadium.
Well, no, this is a new site, I think, because they're building a new stadium, so that's why. That's
right. So they've been there before the stadium.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're trying to get. It's up to council now in order to see if they're going to do that or not. French league suspends goal line technology after failures cross the reliability line. They've had a couple of incidents where it hasn't gone according to plan, so they're going to review it and see if it works better later.
Nothing to do with that, but just quickly about French football. I don't know if you saw something that was doing the rounds tonight on Twitter.
No, I missed it.
French League One match where this team's attacking. And a player bumps the referee.
Yeah.
And the referee falls down.
I did see that.
Kicks out of the player.
I saw that. It seemed like the referee actually bumped into the player. If you look at it from an angle, it looked like the referee was going in with his shoulder.
It was bizarre,
knocking him off, and then the player kind of ran over him, and then he kicked out him out again.
Because if a player kicked out, he's straight off.
Yeah, exactly.
That
is odd,
bizarre.
and that has to be definitely looked into.
I would love to see that in MLS when teams like TFC crowd the ref and he just lashes out at them. That'd be fantastic.
So a couple of kind of FIFA stories. First of all, Austrian prosecutors look like they're going to be investigating the FIFA vote buying allegations.
More FIFA and prosecutors that we've covered in the last few weeks.
The dates for to sentence the people that were on trial for FIFA-gate and guilty. They haven't had those dates set, but one of them, Webb, he will have his pushed back to March. So that's the thing there. The $40 million heist, how Tevez took China for the most expensive ride in football history.
This is hilarious.
It's a short article. It's very good, though. It basically shows how Carlos Tevez went for a year. I think he scored very few goals. And just basically left back to Boca. Obafemi Martins was the one that actually
get the money.
And he claimed that he wasn't going just for 1 year to collect the money, and then he ended up doing that anyways. Maradona chimed in and mentioned that Tevez just stole money from them, and I think he said something like he went in like Santa and stuffed his bags and came back to Argentina.
I don't think that's how Santa works.
No, that's not how Santa.
It's like the reverse Santa.
Maradona could have announced something when he said that.
Yeah. See, if Chinese clubs want to pay players this ridiculous amount of money, they deserve all they get. So I've no sympathy at all for the club. Good on him for doing that.
Saudi football stadiums to open doors to women fans for the first time, which is really good. And people have been tweeting that out and everything like that. I think Anna tweeted out that Iran is the only country now that doesn't allow women in their stadiums. Or is there other ones too? Iran's one of them.
A really good film. If you haven't seen it, I should give you a loan of it. It's called Offside. I think it's 2006.
Okay.
And it's about two girls that try to sneak in to watch the game in Iran.
I've seen bits of that,
It's really good. But it's crazy in this day and age. I know folk will say, well, it's that country's culture. You can't say that. But come on. It's ridiculous.
Some strong statements from Forbes. They say soccer will soon be America's third favorite spectator sport, which is kind of believable.
Overtaking who then?
Well, I think football is number one.
Yeah.
I think basketball is number two.
Yeah.
So then it would overtake baseball.
Wow.
And if you think of it, that
is basketball number two? I'd have thought baseball was number two.
No, I think basketball is number two. Maybe if you look at overall numbers because they have more games, that may be baseball, but it maybe per game it's actually basketball.
Wow.
Basketball is very popular right now. But I think it's because of, first of all, a lot of immigration.
Yep.
And then you have a lot of people watching that in America.
But they're sending all the immigrants home, so maybe it's going to fall down the picking list again.
But they're bringing the Norwegians in.
Oh, yeah. Well, they love their football.
Yeah.
Luge is going to be the third most popular sports.
UEFA bans 6 multiplayers, including 2 for life for fixing games. It was the U21 games qualifiers for the European Championships. So the fixing is still in.
I tell you, I've watched a number of Scotland games over the years that I wish the game had been fixed. They just played that bad. It's hard to tell sometimes.
North American Soccer League to skip spring season.
Yeah.
It looks like they're going to be playing from August to May. So they're playing the FIFA dates. So there'll be soccer in the winter.
Yeah.
Now when MLS is off.
There'll
probably be a winter break. There'll probably be a winter break at some time.
I love it. It's a great bold move by NASL.
Yeah.
I can't see it working.
Yeah.
You have lost Edmonton from the league at least, so at least you don't have that. But unless they're going to just have games played in California and things like that, but you see what's happening in California this winter. Wildfires, mudslides. They have a winter break in Scotland now in the Premier League. But the problem in Scotland is you can't guarantee. Like, we get snow in March and April in Scotland. East Fife had a game postponed in July for a waterlogged pitch. So taking a winter break's not a guarantee that you can avoid the bad weather.
Yeah, for sure. Another decent article from MLSmultiplex.com is it's a kind of an offshoot from Sports Illustrated. It's look at the 25 plus expansion teams that are joining MLS leagues, not MLS, sorry, all US leagues across
all US leagues,
all US leagues across I think 4 levels or 5 levels or whatever they have. So it'd be interesting to see there. Canadian news. We talked about the Herdman appointment, but the one article I want to mention is the 11.ca worst kept secret in Canadian soccer. Zambrano was on a hot seat from day one. I'm obviously not part of Canadian soccer because I had no idea what was going on here.
Apparently I'm not either because I had no idea either.
We're on the outs.
Yeah.
But clearly these guys, and the thing is with Steve Sandor too, he does talk to a lot of guys.
Yeah, he does some really good stuff on that site.
So definitely check that. I
meant to mention that actually when we were talking about
and I guarantee you his article will be much better than a certain person's article from Toronto.
Yes, we won't mention him.
Yeah.
Boo, though.
West Ham, your club,
yes,
is targeting Burnley's $2 million rated Scott Arfield.
Yeah, all for this.
So, but that's going to stop him from coming to Whitecaps.
I'd rather have him at West Ham, yeah. Although it would be fun to talk to him here, so yeah. But there's other clubs interested now. There's some more Premier interest in him, so it's not a done deal. West Ham are looking good just now under David Moyes.
They're on the uphill for sure.
Yeah, destroyed Bournemouth yesterday. That was a good game.
Morocco 2026 World Cup bid hires international consultants.
I read this one. This
hired
was interesting.
It's from the Metro News. They hired basically a consulting firm from London.
Yes.
Who helped Qatar.
Yes.
Get theirs, but they're the thing is though the other thing they mentioned in here was that the U.S. federal prosecutors have mentioned that Morocco did use bribery in their failed attempts in the past. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, the thing with the Moroccan bid is, like, this is in the article.
Yeah.
Apparently, all they've really released about their bid so far is 2 sentences. They haven't given any host cities or anything.
City, yeah.
And the votes in 5 months.
And it's 48 teams too. You got to have enough cities and stadiums.
Well, it's a big country.
Yeah.
I do wonder though how much the anti-Trump feeling and anti-US feeling and all with what they're doing with FIFA officials in the court, if that is maybe going to backfire in the US a bit.
Yeah.
Probably not enough, but it might be a lot closer than some folk are thinking.
Because people got to understand, 2026, he's not going to be in power. It might be somebody else. Even a second term, he'll be out. Edmonton is trying to get the council to Edmonton supporters, soccer supporters, are trying to get the council to get them in the running for to host a FIFA World Cup in 2026. I don't know if it's going to happen. Is January 24th is the last date.
But they're also got some other things planned in Edmonton as well. They're trying to get a Canadian PL team there.
For sure. And that would help, for sure.
But I was excited when I read that headline, but less excited when I saw it was just supporters. I thought they had backing or money and stuff behind them. But
it's a grassroots right now, and that's what I'm saying. It might be too
fan-owned. And
it might be too little too late at this point right now.
Yeah. Edmonton needs a team, though.
Yeah.
Has to.
Last little bit here, and it's something that MLS, I'm surprised they hadn't done this earlier, but they're starting a thing called the e-MLS, which is basically...
I wasn't going to mention this, but yeah.
But it's something to get
it's a massive thing, I know. I just don't get it.
Because this is huge in Madden, for example, for NFL. FIFA in Europe, I think this goes huge in there too for competitions.
Oh, yeah.
So
I know esports is massive.
Yeah.
I know...
It makes more money than
you're
some...
like, darts, that's not a sport either, but...
It actually brings up more money than other sports.
Yeah.
So if MLS could do this and garner more money, it's all the power to them. And it gets
Whitecaps are going to have a team.
Oh, for sure.
I might put my hat in the ring for that.
When's the last time you played?
I can't score, but I can defend really well. So I think I'm made for the Whitecaps team. I don't know. I don't get it. I personally feel...
But you're old too, remember?
Well, there is that. And I do personally feel that is what's wrong with a lot of the youth of today. They're more happy to sit at home and play football on their computer than get outside and play football in the parks. That's what's wrong with Canadian soccer. Get more folk out playing actual football, not sitting on their asses playing stupid Xbox games and stuff. But
maybe those players they're not good enough to be outside. They have to be inside.
Yeah. But there is that. I think if you've got a 40 stone guy, well, he'll be dead. If you've got maybe a 14, let's go with 14 stone guy, sitting on his couch with his nachos and his beer. Yeah, I don't get it, but I want to be open-minded about it. I might not sign that just now. I admit I'm coming across that way. I'm going to chat to some people about it. We'll get some folk on the show telling us about it. If anyone's listening to this, get in touch, aftncanada@hotmail.com. Come on our show. Tell me why I'm wrong about esports, why I need to know about esports, and why esports is the future. Please educate me.
No,
I'd love to know.
My personal opinion right now, you don't need to know about it. You don't need to even love it.
I do if it's going to be big and you
just
can
don't
get
need
another outlet.
You just don't need to hate it. That's the only thing. Just have an open mind.
I like hate.
It's 1 o'clock. It's after 1
Hate is good, especially at 1 a.m.
1 a.m., just have an open mind.
Okay, I'll try and have an open mind. Someone needs to convince me that it's not a bunch of saddos. I was good at Pac-Man. I didn't know I could make a career out of Pac-Man.
No, that wouldn't have made it anywhere.
And darts is a sport before anyone gets in touch. You have to have skill and math.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is it for this week's episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. Just before we go, Steve, let everyone know where they can find you online.
You can find me on Twitter at WhitecapsBeat.
I'm Michael McCall. You can find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada. Read all our stuff away from the numbers on aftn.ca. Check out the article I put up today, Sunday, just talking about Whitecaps youth development. We had planned to talk about that in this show, but we've run out of time. Give us a follow on Instagram at AFTN Soccer as well. And remember to check out our extra subscription podcast. There's still extra time. Find out all the details on aftn.ca, $3 a month, or you can pay $30 for a year. Also, if you like the show and you listen to it on the podcast, we keep forgetting to do this, but leave some reviews and some ratings on iTunes. If you don't like us, don't bother. But until next time, as always, thanks for listening, take care, and mon the Caps.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.